gonna make you a star, motherfucker.
I broke my back.
What do you mean by that?
My back is broken.
What do you mean, calm it down? It's a fight. Referees telling two fighters who want to fight to calm it down? He should calm down.
So he's like a clown in his show, man. He's not your guy.
Because Tyson Fury's back, and all you motherfuckers are under attack.
Look, Eddie Hearn can say all what he likes. Who gives a shit what Eddie Hearn says? It's garbage.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
Can you let me retire and be happy? Please, just please.
Bombs away from the Bronx Bomber! Wanda! Let's go, baby! Let's go!
I'm through. They put somebody else up and give me an interview. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You never give me a fair shake. HBO needs to fire you. You don't know shit about boxing. You ain't shit. You're not shit. I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
I got drunk, man. Are you kidding?
No, you won the fight.
OMG, I am so excited.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up? What is up, MCR family? Another daily edition of the show live on YouTube, obviously podcast from iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, etc. You know where to find us. Smash the like button, share the show, subscribe. I am Matt, the Hipster Hunter, with a short, not really a daily edition, it's a special edition, Rob. It is. It's sort of a start of a weekly, monthly. I really haven't determined or remembered exactly how many shows we want to do going forward with this platform, but it's a lot. And obviously, White Collar Boxing, who we're going to be talking about today, what we're going to be discussing today, interviewing Scott Borthwick and Olamide Dedegbe, and I butchered both those names. I apologize. You come on here and tell me that I am shit. I know. And we're going to be discussing again, what is white collar boxing, what the purpose of this is, how it functions, what are some names you may know that have sort of come up through this circuit, and basically what the next step is, what the next show is, and what fighters to look for. But before I head to Mitty and Scott, I'm going to head to Rob, Mr. Robbie Hearns himself, second cousin, twice removed of Eddie Hearns. Rob, how are you doing today?
Oh, good. Thank you, Matt Hunter. Very well.
I feel like you said my name right, though. Like I know I have bad hearing, but...
No, I said Hunter or something like that. Anyway, we got, obviously, like you say, white collar boxing. Seen today some posts, they got some a lot of people signed up, and the first day of camp, I believe, was today. Looked a hell of a turnout, but obviously, like you say, we got Scott and Midday to discuss, how it all began, how it's progressed, and just what it's all about. Because I guess a lot of people maybe don't exactly understand what this is. So we've got the guys that can answer all the questions, obviously live on the show.
Yes, we do. And let's get to them right now. Scott, Mitty, obviously, thank you for joining us today on the show. First, I'm going to go to Scott. Scott, tell the people basically what your, duties are, what your sort of role is with white collar boxing to start with.
Cool. So my duties and roles are general dog's body, really. I head up the training with Midday and Aaron. We organise the shows. We generally do everything. We make sure the guys are they're matched correctly, they're match fit, they're following the guidelines of the training camp, they're eating well, and just basically teaching them how to box, how to defend, and how to go in and showcase their skills in front of 2,000 people.
Mitty, obviously, people know you on the show more as Coach Mitty, longtime caller, obviously a good friend of the show. Tell people basically what you do, because I know we call you Coach Mitty, but that's not, that's sort of what you do, but it's not fully what you do. So Mitty, tell the people basically more about your story in a sense.
Yeah, so my journey in white collar boxing and with white collar boxing London started, I would say, in 2010, I believe that's when I met Scott. And from there, I started as like an actual participant on the show. And then after the first one, Scott and I struck like a very good relationship. And we carried on, our journey together. Like, so in terms of what I do on the shows, I started out helping with the training, being like, Scott assistant, just like he was teaching me the ropes. I was following, how to help out fighters and, just how to give them like a few tips and helping Scott with the general training duties and stuff like that. And then over the years that developed into just like being more of like heading like the session, and because the organization got so big that Scott had to just like get on with other duties. So I headed like the coaching side of it, which I love doing. That's what I like doing, right? I like helping people developing their boxing skills. And then from then on, like, as I said, we keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And, that's what Scott does, right? Builds his organization like a true boss. So now I'm helping out with different things, right? In the organization of the show itself on the day, setting up the rooms like I did on the last show, helping out with corners and anything that you'll think that is associated with like the kind of like entrepreneurial business that we run. Anywhere I can help Scott and kind of divide and conquer, that's what I jump in basically. So
But before we go even obviously more down the rabbit hole of what the logistics are of these events, because I definitely want to delve into that. When I last heard the last event, I think was over 30-something fights. Scott, maybe you are best to sort of describe it. What is white collar boxing? I mean, that's probably a phrase that most people may have not heard of, especially in the States. So what is it?
White collar boxing, from my knowledge, actually sort of started in the States. It started with the guys working in your white collar professions. It used to be popular at Gleason's gym. It's basically it's an opportunity for those that work in your white collar jobs, your office environment type jobs. Gives them an opportunity to come and train like a professional fighter. Partake in these huge shows, and basically it's their opportunity of becoming as close to a professional boxer as you can get, if that makes sense. I mean, some of these people will only ever do it once. Some of the people will say they only want to do the training, and within 6 weeks they're in the ring sparring, dying to fight. So I mean, the whole white collar concept is aimed at those guys in those white collar professions, with no prior experience, taking on our training camps and going in and then competing.
Yeah, and if I can jump in there, like Matt, right, and Scott, like it's like Scott said, actually historically, it did start in New York, and it started like I believe in the 80s, where a dude in Wall Street, like I believe it was a lawyer versus like a banker.
Yeah.
Both of those guys like agreed to take part in a fight. They went to gyms like Gleason. They lived the life for 10 weeks or whatever, and they put on a show in front of their office colleagues and stuff like that. So it's got like a lot of like benefits in terms of obviously releasing stress that you build up in working in those type of professions. It also allows you to just like, I guess, like get fitter, because if you imagine you sit around your desk for I don't know, some of those guys do like 10-12 hours days, especially in banking professions, right? So you would get fat doing that type of job. So if you want to get healthy, you can do that. But it has like loads of benefits, like increase your level of like confidence as well, and so on and so forth. And as Scott said, this is typically people that you would not associate with boxing, right? With the sports of boxing, and with the violence, like, or the perceived violence attached to it. But you're giving those guys the opportunity to break the mold of that image of like, that office boy that, could not have a scrap on the street. And, it also gives them like the opportunity to be a hero for 6 minutes. You'll hear that like a lot, right? A lot of people say, like, just be a hero for 6 minutes. So that's pretty much the history and how we took that and evolved that over the years, right?
So
that's correct.
So sort of, sorry, Rob, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I was just going to say, so is it specifically aimed at, these kind of guys, or obviously girls as well, the women, in that higher end jobs, or are you going to get like your builders and your common sort of guys?
We do take them on. To be honest, listen, white collar boxing is aimed at those in the white collar professions. But we've been going so long now, and we the main thing for us is safety. So although we take on your firefighters, your police officers, and we take on your electricians and stuff like that. So we don't just close it off, but we make sure that the guys who are not in the white collar professions, that they're all on the same sort of level playing field. So when it comes to matching each other and everyone else, although some of them might not be of the white collar professions, but they're still of the same ability going forward to the shows.
And how easy is it to make those matchups? Because I guess it's a learning curve. You might have put someone in there that properly dominated another guy, or vice versa.
Yeah, well, we've been doing it for so long. For us, it's our bread and butter. But listen, there'll be times where I'm unsure, and I'll have to get onto Mide, ask him what he thinks. We'll have to get people in for private sparring sessions to ensure matchups are going to work. Because for us, the main thing is we put on these huge shows in front of 2,000 people. So we need to make sure that those that are stepping through, they've got the confidence that we have matched them correctly. And again, when they go in there, they want to make sure that one person's not on the wrong end of a hiding, and they both gain from the experience. You can't always get everything bang on, but we pride ourselves on 9 times out of 10, and the feedback sort of speaks for itself really in terms of what people have to say and the returns of the amount of people that come back and box on the shows again.
And just like quickly to quickly come back to your previous question, Rob, because I find it interesting, right? I just like follow anything that is boxing, whether it's like pro, whether it's white collar and everything. But in the UK, especially, the white collar boxing scene is so big that there is a big debate and discussion on boxing forum, especially like around like what is white collar boxing, like is it like strictly white collar profession, or is it like people in blue collar profession? And as Scott said, like we don't close off any avenue on our side, but we're just super careful about what we do and the matchups. But they have like different organizations just operate differently, and you have even people that have spun off like different ideas, right? The blue collars versus white collars and stuff like that. So next to white collars, you also have like terms that are semi-pro boxers, and then you have some people that will just get very annoyed, especially like in the professional scene, say, "What the hell is a semi-pro boxer?"
Of course,
and things like that. But it's all like what kind of definition you want to put to those things, right? And that's an interesting topic to me, and I'm ready to debate anyone on those because it's all about opinion and definitions of that, right? So,
well, I want to touch on that briefly. That's what I wanted to ask before Rob jumped in. For those that don't know, from my understanding, white collar boxing is similar to World Series of Boxing, where it is semi-pro. It's not amateur. It's not professional boxing. It's not categorized as either one. It's sort of in between. What are some similarities and differences from the World Series of Boxing? Because from my understanding, from the way you guys have sort of described white collar boxing, it's more of a I'm going to say this in not a disparaging way, but more of a get fitness sort of promotional tactic.
Yeah, you're right.
While World Series Boxing is more of a funnel towards the pros. Am I wrong in that assumption or assertion?
Listen, let's not get confused in terms of white collar boxing and World Series boxing. The WSB guys are the elite boys in in the amateur ranks. These guys have travelled the world, boxed Olympics, boxed Commonwealth Games, and so on. So what we don't want to do is we don't want to discredit those guys. But what it is, it's in a way it is the white collar guys. It's exactly the same. It's just not of the caliber of what the WSB guys are.
Well,
having said that,
let me switch up my question a little bit just to maybe because I obviously, like you said, World Series of Boxing guys, you have a lot of Olympic guys. I mean, Usyk was in World Series of Boxing, so the level of people going in these two different entities is completely different. But I'm talking about the, let's say, percentage rate. Are people in white collar boxing continuing to fight within white collar boxing, or looking to fight in pros future on, or a couple years down the line?
We get a bit of everything, really. Listen, we get the people who. These are the type of people you get. You get the guys and girls, the adrenaline junkies. They've jumped out of planes. They've, done marathons. And they've got their buzz and their kicks everywhere. And it's a case of they've done those. What else? And then it's, it comes to us where they want to go and box and, raise some money for charity and fight in a packed out arena. Then you get those people that get the flavour for it. For example, Mide now, who's now gone on to box at a very high standard. We've got, for example, one of our, a few of our ex-female fighters have gone on to represent England. Some are on the verge of turning over professional. One has just come back from representing New Zealand. So some of them go on to real high standards. And to be honest, some don't, but they most certainly do have the pedigree to step it up if they wanted to. Mm-hmm. But again, many of our guys that go into the amateur ranks. We've just had one of our ladies, I can't remember the name of the cup. It's the Women's Box Cup. It's a brand new concept. She went into that and she won that. Alongside with the guys and girls that will only ever do one fight. We've got a big range of people that if they want to kick on, they can. But in terms of the majority that do, I'd probably say 30% of people will go on and continue to box. Mm-hmm. 30% will, thanks for having us. I've ticked it off the bucket list. And the rest sort of stay training with us and they do, they don't box show after show, but down the line, they do go on and compete again.
Yeah. I mean, I would tend to agree with that, especially as you finish there. The reality is that the guys that will just reach the elites or the people that will turn pro, my observation is that it's a small percentage compared to the majority of the people we see coming through the camp. However, the people that do carry on boxing and not just carry on boxing but also just keep an interest in boxing is quite high. If you have a repeat rate of 30% or plus. Is quite big, right? And it's just competing in another one of our show, for example. So we do have quite a lot of people that come back for a second time and a third time and a bit more. And those guys are the guys that also just see boxing in a different way and are interested in the world of boxing in general, not necessarily competing to become a pro or anything, but as Scott said, keep training and have a better appreciation for what boxers go through. So, yeah.
So do you guys, have you seen an increase in, say, since the rise of Joshua, obviously the big UK star that we've got here? Has there been a big increase, since boxing is obviously booming here right now? Is that just obviously filtered down to you guys and your setup and others?
I think boxing in general has gone through the roof. Big props to your Anthony Joshuas and your Tyson Furies and for throwing it out there a little bit more. I mean, it always has been there, but it was never there for your keep fitter type people. Years ago, I set up my own boxing gym and I wanted to do something a little bit different because boxing can be quite intimidating. For the average Joe just to walk off to the street and step into a boxing ring can be quite a scary thing. But now it's more commercialized. It's out there. People see a lot more women doing it and taking part. That we see it really is booming. To be fair, I think a lot of it again is down to how you teach, the type of people you've got in the gym. The laughs and the jokes we can have as coaches. Because although they are white collar boxers or keep fitters, once they're in our gym, they're treated as boxers and we train tough. It was only this morning I was telling the guys and girls to expect rough times throughout the training camp. it's not all going to be sunshine and rainbows. There'll be times where, we're going to have to help each other get through the training, or you'll go into a sparring session. It'll be a tough sparring session and start questioning themselves, do I need to be doing this at the age of 36, 37? And is this for me? But, I think because they know what they're getting themselves into, the type of training and everything else, I think, people see it and they just latch onto it and they want a bit of it, really.
Well, let's go into that. What is sort of the process for the average white-collar boxing fighter? Like, what is the process to get involved? What is the process to go through a training camp? What is the process for the fight? Explain sort of the overall process for a white-collar boxing fighter.
Okay, so what we do is we run various shows throughout the year. So every few months we take on, we enroll. So, for example, today we just started a training camp for those that are going to box in March, but now we're also taking on the next group of contenders that will start with us at the end of March to go and box on our June show. So for us, it's a continuous cycle. Our guys that started with us this morning, they get put under a 10-week structured training camp. It's very important to us that, again, the way we like to teach is we like to learn an aspect of boxing, progress the next week, but we always like to come back and revisit it again. The way we teach is that you can never learn too much technique, and you'll always brush up on something extra. So the process is we then go through the training camp, learning different aspects. They won't be put into sparring until we're fully aware that they've got the basics nailed in. So, for example, they'll go through what we call a few tech spars first, where it's no facial contact. It's like body sparring. Mm-hmm. They'll have the gum shields in, they'll have the head guard in, so they can actually feel what it's like before they go into start sparring. And then, there is no real difference in terms of, obviously, the finesse that the pros have got and everything else. But, they then get treated like they were professional fighters.
So it's structured as in, like, sort of week one. Just to give people an example, do you go into like the heavy bag? They have sessions on the heavy bag, or
so for example, week one, week two are basically our meet and greet sessions. They're ice breaking sessions because, as I said, it can be quite intimidating. Get everybody down. We have a laugh and a joke. I'm a bit of an expert at a bit of what you're laughing for. I'm a bit of an expert with a bad joke, but I don't mind people laughing at my expense because it puts them at ease. Then what we'll do is we'll go through very basic session. So how to stand, how to throw a shot, what a shot's called, and why we're moving like that and why we're throwing it. What we'll then do at the end of that session, like we did today, we implement it into an exercise. So again, I'm a firm believer of everything that you've just learnt, then go and put it straight into practice straight away, so it doesn't, go in one ear and out the other. Week two, exactly the same. We recap, we go over again. And these guys are also expected to do a little bit of homework in terms of we send out videos that they can learn from throughout the week. Week two is exactly the same. Week three, what we do is we run 3 fitness sessions throughout the training camp. So we run a first fitness session on week 3, second one on week 5, third one on week 7. So week 3 and week 7 are they're old school bleep tests. So they're a good gauge for us to find out where people are, and it's a good gauge for them so we can let them know where they are, in terms of, or where they need to be. Sorry. So for example, if John's at level 5 or 6 on a bleep test at week 3, come week 7, if he's now up at a 9, 10 or 11, then, it gives him a little boost in his confidence that from the training he's actually gaining from it, as opposed to coming down to the gym and just being hammered into the ground. Week 5, our fitness test is 12-minute sprints. Again, it's quite a brutal thing, but what we don't want to do is we don't want to sugarcoat what boxing's about. It is tough, and it's a case of you get out what you put in. So for us, 12-minute sprint test, basically like shuttle runs or pre-season if you've ever played football. Constant high high running, short amount of rest, just aimed at getting the recovery up. Again, we train the way that we intend to fight. So by that, fight night's going to be 100 mile an hour for a short amount of time. So again, that's the way we train. And again, progressing as long as everybody's then back on with us where we need them to be on technique, we'll then kick on to, our pad work drills and our bag work and moving before we go into tech sparring and then full sparring.
Now, what's the logistics of putting on an event? Because obviously you guys are, not pseudo promoters. You guys are basically promoters of these events. You guys are the ones putting them on. What does that entail? How does that actually come about? Because I remember the last event, Mitty was talking about it being 30-something fights you guys put on. You guys had two different rings. Like, how does that all work?
Yeah, so usually we used to do two shows. Smaller venue, 1,000 people in attendance. But what we do now, to be honest, it's not really the thing you do in boxing, but just purely because of the big numbers we get, and we don't want to be turning people away from, in some cases, once in a lifetime opportunity. We run shows where two rings run simultaneously. We do big sort of corporate shows where it's only one ring, but because we've got 60 fighters, so we've got 15 fights in each ring. So, for example, red person in ring 1 will make their way into the ring. Red person in ring 2, they'll make their way in, followed by blue into 1, blue into 2, and they'll start at the same time. They'll finish at the same time. It is quite strange if you've never been around it. But I mean, listen, we're changing it. We're changing the face of boxing. We're doing it differently. And it works, really. It works. Yeah. The people we've got, they enjoy it. The crowds enjoy it, and it's almost, you're getting double the boxing for your money.
Yeah, I've got to admit, right? Like when we first moved from the single venue, the single ring venue, smaller venue, to the 2-ring venue. Scott can tell you, I wasn't convinced, right? I was, that's very weird. You're in one room as a spectator. You're just like watching in 2 rings. But as Scott just said, it works. Like, now I'm like a firm believer that, for that setup and for what we're doing, it works perfectly. It's just amazing. People just get like a really good kick out of it. Like, so that, that's good. And it doesn't like do any damage to the level of production also. I mean, you've seen the videos that we've put out there, or, the clip that I sent you guys personally, Rob and Matt. The atmosphere in that room and the way it looks is just amazing. We go to small hall shows, professional shows, and I can tell you that at least on that scene, professional boxers do not box on that kind of level of production. So it's just amazing, right? So,
but again, sorry, just quick follow up, Rob. Like just from a logistics standpoint, like you said, 60 fighters. I mean, there's. Yeah. I would assume not all of those 60 fighters that you guys plan at the very beginning make it to that event, but yet you still have, 30 fights to put on. So
no, we had 80 start this morning with us. Yeah, 80 guys and girls this morning.
Like again, as a listener, from a logistics perspective, how do you manage that?
Yeah, I mean that's crazy, right? I mean, like
Not
Scott touched on like a lot of stuff that you see like as a result of it. Like you see as a result of it, you see 2-ring, you see loads of fights and all this. I think what you're asking, Matt, is like, how do we manage like 80 people or 80 strangers walking into camp on day 1 and then all making it to fight nights? And, how do you have to handle those people's personal queries? How do you have to just like make sure that they have like the right ring entrance music?
Yeah, like no wonder Mitty's losing his hair, man. Like I'm just saying.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Listen, he's losing hair probably because of me, because you're asking me these logistics and how do we do it. I'll turn around and just say to Mide, can you do that for me?
That's what I'm saying. I should have answered that question earlier at the beginning of the show. What's my role in there? Right? But Scott is the boss, and I do what I'm told. Right?
It's tough. It's tough. It's not easy. And the way we logistically for the training camp, we'll take 40 people in. So, for example, on a Saturday morning when they're in as a squad, 40 people will train from 10 a.m. till 11 a.m. Once they're done, the next group will come in from 11 a.m. till 12 p.m. So that's the training camps split into 2. In terms of fight night, everybody's got their time. You know, they'll all arrive at a certain time. We'll then have a brief chat, explain how the show's going to go, what way we're going to walk into the ring, you know, what to expect, where to be at a certain time. You know, because 60 boxers walking around a big, massive changing room is quite, you know, it's quite a thing to control, really. So we give them the freedom. Say, for example, if somebody's not on till 10 o'clock, then realistically they don't need to be in the changing room until 9 o'clock. Logistics of putting on a show. I mean, we've got our blueprint. We know what works. You know, in regards of the ring hire and the production and the lights, the smoke and the mirrors and everything else. I don't want to give away too many secrets because there's a lot of people out there that what we do, all of a sudden they're popping up on their shows. I mean, you know, it's obviously a credit to crediting us to what we do, albeit annoying. But I mean, listen, it's tough, but we manage it. We've got a good team. We've got good people. And, you know, it's one of those. How do we manage 80 people training? And it's just me driving the mad, mate. You know, I'm on the phone. I'm on the emails. You know, I'm Mayday. Have you checked this person? Have you checked that person's weight? You know, is that going to work? Yeah. That's why Mayday's gone bald, because of me.
but that's where it is, like, Matt, like, I mean, it's hold on to it. Like, you know, what Scott said, it's a lot of work, a lot of hard work, and a lot of attention to detail. But again, we can't go necessarily into all those details because of trade secrets and stuff like that. But, you know, there's one thing, like, you know, often imitated, never replicated type of talk, right? But that's the reality. And that's the reason why I'm sticking with that organization, White Collar Boxing London, because I see firsthand the passion, the drive, and all the details that go into it to make it successful. So, yeah, that's where it is, man.
I mean, if people, I think, is it White Collar Boxing London on Instagram, there's videos there, you see people coming out, they're obviously all hyped. The crowds are really happy, as you'd expect a British boxing crowd to be. And you've got ring walks, and then, like you say, lights and smoke. I mean, it looks the product. Obviously, like you say, a hell of a lot of hard work goes into it. Kind of like, I guess, you know, a swan on the top of the water, and underneath the legs are going crazy. You know, so from what I've seen, it really looks good. You obviously got a great product, and
thank you.
No, it really does. It's good to. I didn't really realize this scene was, you know, happening until obviously I got to know Midi and saw little bits. Obviously,
I mean, it's been going on. To be honest, it's growing. It's growing now. When I started it in 2010, there wasn't many people about. I mean, you had a few people, and the reason I started doing it was because I'd been to a few. The mismatches were going on, and I just thought, you know, I could do better than that. I could put a bit more into it, give people a bit more of a, you know, an insight of how to do it properly. And as Mayday said earlier on, our shows, you know, the production is next level. We run shows, for example, we do a media fight night each year. We do certain ones for, you know, different corporate companies. Some of these shows cost £100,000 plus to put on. You know, there are pro fighters out there that will never box at the level our shows are, which, you know, don't listen, it's not great. Every pro fighter can't go and box at Wembley. But, you know, everybody that does box on our show, they're 9 times out of 10, it comes to fight night and they turn around and they say, like, wow. Or, you know, I've been to a white collar show before and it was nothing like this. And that's where we get our kicks, and that's where we know that it's all worth it.
Yeah, I mean, anyone expecting sort of spit and sawdust, you know, smoky room and this, that, and the other, they'll be in for a shock if they head over to your Instagram page, because, you know, I'm not saying it's Sky Sports production and the huge venues, but it's not far off, you know. And
it's close to Frank Warren. It's close to Frank Warren.
Less fighting in the crowd, I guess. But
yeah, no fighting in the crowd, man. No fighting.
Yeah, we don't allow the fighting in the crowd. If anybody fancies a tear up, they have to get in the queue and get in the ring. That's all. And that's another thing. That's, you know, that's a credit to the people we take on. They're good people, and it shows in the atmosphere of the fights. You know, there's never any argy-bargy, and it's a real. Even if, say, for example, 2 people that train together, that, you know, they're going toe to toe. Everybody wants to win, but their friends and their family. They're all getting on, you know. So it's a really nice, it's a feel good vibe.
So there's no, mums have got in a ring, took the stiletto off. And
We've had a few. We've had a few. Don't hit my son.
Well, Scott and Mitty, give us sort of a snapshot of what the next show is, because I think we have it the poster up right now. Capital Punishment, March 15th.
Yeah, so they're in training now for 10 weeks, all leading up to the 15th of March. So on the 15th of March again, we'll have 30 fights, 15 in each ring. Each show we do, we also put a title fight on it. So, basically what we do is anybody that's had 2 or more fights with us, they can then go on and compete for one of our titles. It gives them a thank you for taking part. And also they get to take home one of these championship belts that, it's their version of being a champion, if that makes sense. Albeit at a lower level, but it's still an achievement in itself to go ahead and win one of those belts.
Yeah. And I mean, this camp in particular, I think for me, it's quite exciting. Like the first camp of the year is always like a special one, I think, because that's where a lot of people just come off their Christmas holidays and New Year partying, and they have like all those new resolutions. So you tend to see people with like a lot of new momentum and setting themselves targets. And whilst I think we're always smashing in terms of finding great people in the camp, I do tend to think that the March shows in general, as where I see people with especially early on, with some very serious drive and serious goals in it. And I think we have some people with some fighting for special causes as well in this camp, so that makes it like a good show also. So I don't know.
Who are some names for people to sort of look for for this next fight?
In terms of people taking part?
Yes.
I mean, we've got some returners. We've got, for example, we've got an older gentleman who's actually taking part on our show, a man called Mike Proctor, who a few years ago come to us, and he won't mind us saying that he was out of shape. He needed a little bit of motivation. He wanted to go on and wanted a reason to get fit. Really, nothing, not really charity based, but he wanted an excuse to get fit and something to take serious. So he went and boxed on one of our shows. And Mike's actually back with us now. Mike lost his daughter a few months ago. I believe she was 24, and she passed away due to a heart condition. So Mike's back with us again for the second time up, to raise awareness for the charity, and put himself on the line once again in the for others, so to speak. I think he's raised over £2,000 already, and training camp hasn't even started for 12 hours, So we've got him. We've got, for example, City Professionals. We've got a gentleman called Ross Brown, who many years ago he was head of FHM. We've got some good people in there. We've also got some good ladies that you'll be surprised at. Again, boxing. The stigma of boxing's turned around some, because it used to be, boxing's for men, but really, listen, our girls at the moment are absolutely cruising. So we've got ladies of all different sort of weights, ages, abilities that are now stepping up to the plate and really kicking ass.
Again, do you think stemming from like the likes of Katie Taylor, the Nicola Adams?
I think so.
Yeah.
And it's
definitely
been a gradual increase each time. What would you say the sort of roughly percentage-wise in, say, this camp?
I think, what did we have this morning? I think let's say if we have, for every 50 people, 10 of those are ladies. It can still be an intimidating environment, which is why we go out of our way to make sure that the ladies are looked after. For example, our first group this morning had loads of ladies in it. The second group only had 2 ladies in it, So yeah. I turned around and I said to them that, if they're more than welcome to jump in with the other ladies. They sort of said to me, look, we're here to train. You know, we're all equal, which was great. But you know, we must also cater for those that you know, so they don't feel intimidated. There's no reason why they should do, but when they've got some giant men in there that have trained before, and you know, we give them the option if they want to jump in with the other ladies, then they're more than welcome to do so. But you know, most of them knuckle down in terms of their fights on the shows. For sure, the ladies' fights are a lot more technical. A lot of people, you know, they rave about our female fighters. And, you know, male or female, once they're in our gym, everybody's equal. But for sure, your fighters like Katie Taylor, you know, your Savannah Marshalls and all the rest of it, they're most certainly good advocates. And they are, without a doubt, they're making more ladies sign up and not even if they don't want to fight, get involved in boxing and you know, whether it be letting off some steam or learning the art of sweet science.
Another topic of women, sorry to jump in, Robbie, just a quick shout out, right? In your audience, actually, one of your loyal listener and Patreon member, the real Niger chick, BC, is actually one of our contestants, right? And one of our champion, actually. So I don't know, if you guys follow her or just see what she puts in training, she's one of the technical girl out there. So shout out to her.
Yeah, she's very good, to be fair. Bissy's in the gym before we are in there, and she's in there when we go home. We can't really get rid of her, but you know, when it comes to her boxing, it says everything, because you know how technical she is. You can often find her by the mirror drilling things in, and she's always ready to learn, and you know, so it's good.
And what would you say, just quickly, your average sign up, what's their sort of boxing knowledge, or you know, are they a lot of them sort of casuals and just fancy a go? Are they any hard?
The majority, again, like I say we took on 80 people. You know, listen, a good 60 people have never done anything before. Let's say 10 of those have had one fight. And 10 have had 2 or 3 fights. We have an amazing turnover of new people, but we've always, you know, the reason again we keep getting people coming back is just, I think, because of the quality, the atmosphere that we put on, and you know, the way people are looked after. They can fit in with us. But yeah, for sure. Listen, at least out of the 80 people, 60 of those that join us every time are raw newbies, never even, you know, laced up a glove. The majority have never even been in the gym. You'll be surprised. You know, but credit to them. You know, some of them become really good.
And that's the thing, like, you know, I mean, like, I know, like, those guys, and you know, when we talk about casuals here on this show, on like generally on the YouTube scene, right? We're talking about people that don't really have like a clue about like boxing, professional boxing, and don't know the boxers, and then you know, you'll hear them joining a conversation and say, "Oh yeah, that you know, Anthony Joshua was really good," or you know that you know, whatever, like you know, Tyson Fury will beat all of them because they heard it yesterday or whatever, right? So, but yeah, you know, that's the thing. I do think that we get a lot of those casuals in that sense. And what I was trying to say a bit earlier in the conversation is that those people, they actually turn into people that have like a much better appreciation for boxing, and they tend to follow boxing, professional boxing, as a result of their involvement in white collar boxing and understanding the work that goes into getting ready for a fight. You know, the stress and the hardship that you go through camp, and the emotional, like, you know, roller coaster that it is. So they do tend to become like better educated boxing fan, rather than just being the casual guy on the couch that say, "Oh, you should jab more, you should do this, you should do that."
So if Eddie Hearn's listening, he owes us 20% of all ticket sales that go to him.
Boom. You know, that was the setup for you guys. You know, so.
Yes, Eddie, if you're listening, get on it. Send Scott and Mitty that info, and obviously, and maybe send us some as well. Just saying, like, we won't mind. But anyways, guys, obviously, thank you for the time. You know, this has been a very long interview, and I've loved every bit of it. Obviously, I hope to get some of these fighters for the next March card on the show as well. And, you know, to continue to work with, obviously, white collar boxing. I think what you guys are doing is fantastic. at the very least, you guys are creating new fans of the sport, and that in and of itself is a great thing.
Thank you. By all means, listen, feel free to, even one day, if you want to come and do a podcast that even at one of our shows, the listeners can hear the atmosphere and you can talk to the fighters firsthand, you're more than welcome to do so.
I would love that. Obviously, it's just an issue of money, but I would love to do that, Scott. No problem.
Maybe I'll pay it.
I mean, I'll definitely, willing to come down and cover the evening for us and put it out there or whatever. I can.
Perfect. You're more than welcome.
That'd be fantastic. Like you've sort of explained to everybody tonight. This isn't just, some dark, sort of town hall where some guys are, leathering the crap out of each other. This is as professional as you're sort of gonna get. That you've not really done it before, and it just looks amazing. And like Matt said, turning people over to having an interest in boxing, and for those probably even more than me, I've not put a glove on and had that gym life, so they're already going to be one up on me as far as appreciating what a boxer goes through. Even for that short little fight in their life, it's a big deal for them. And like you say, that the bout might not be a WBC green and gold, but to them it's maybe everything. So it's
for sure it's their own version.
Yeah, exactly. So shout out to you guys doing all this work, because it sounds a hell of a lot of hard work, but it seems really worth it as far as what you get back out of it.
Scott and Mitty, let the people know where they can find you and White Collar Boxing via social media, YouTube, whatever it may be.
You can find us. We're on all platforms. You can find us on Facebook under White Collar Boxing London. Again, White Collar Boxing London on Instagram, and you can even catch up on some of our shows on our YouTube channel at White Collar Boxing London. Miday's also on there. He's got his own.
Yeah. So on Instagram, Coach Miday, but like the most important, as I said, is the White Collar Boxing platforms, and definitely just subscribe across all platforms. Like we tend to do a lot on the Facebook in terms of subscriber, and Instagram in terms of just seeing what we're doing and stuff like that. But the YouTube channel is often neglected, but especially our contenders should not really neglect that, because we just put on a lot of content on there in terms of training videos. Scott's got a lot of good tips on there, and you can even see him looking like 25 and 70 kilo on there. So
I often watch the videos back just to see what shape I used to be in.
Well, thank you guys for the time, as I've said, and really appreciate it. Obviously, we're gonna head out of here. Rob, let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, Instagram and Twitter at UK Rob MCR. Like I say, go follow these guys. It really does look great. But yeah, I really enjoyed the interview, finding out all about it, and I look forward to maybe popping down on fight night and following it and getting some stuff. Mixed Combat Radio. So keep in tune, and we'll follow some of these fighters' journeys along the way.
Yes. Perfect. And obviously, I'm Matt the Hipster Hunter. You can find me at Matt Hunter MCR all platforms. But you guys, usually know that. Hit the like button, share the show, subscribe, listen on podcast, drop that 5-star review, and go check out White Collar Boxing London on all platforms. Fantastic work over there, and obviously good friends of the show. I mean, I've met Scott once about a year ago now. Great guy. I've met Mitty a few times now. He's all right, I guess. For what he is. I mean, but everyone have a great day. Stay safe out there. Peace.
Peace.
Nice one, gents. Take care.